Uh-oh. I don't know. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Oh, God. What does it mean?
I think it means, well, that seems like the microphone's now on.
Okay, welcome to the Intimacy Dialogues. We're winging it, okay? And I just gave an amazing intro that did not get recorded. So
You should say it again, and then when we YouTube it, we'll just cut that first part off.
Okay, great, okay. So we're back, we're here. Okay, welcome to the Intimacy Dialogues. These are dialogues on the subjects of love and sex and conscious relating,
Yes.
subjects that I'm completely devoted to exploring, and I'm calling in amazing pioneers in this field to share with me in this conversation, to share with you. So my name is Sonia Shraddha Devi, and I'm a coach and a healer and a tantric facilitator. And essentially what I do is I help people to create a deeper, more intimate relationship with themselves so they can have a deeper, more intimate, fulfilling relationship with everything.
Yes.
And from my own personal experience and my experience of working with people is that really conscious relating and sacred sexuality really has the power to take us to those deep, deep places inside of ourselves and initiate the healing that needs to happen for us to really live in our most juicy, fulfilled state of being. Yeah. And speaking of juicy and fulfilled and conscious, I'm very happy to have this amazing woman with me to join in this conversation and this exploration. So her name is Shelley Bullard, and I've known her for just a few weeks, and I would like to start by just speaking about my experience of her.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that sounds sweet.
So I would say that Shelley is one of the most embodied, sexy, yummy women I've ever met. And I've met a few. And she really is. She just exudes this aliveness. And the beauty about it is that she exudes this aliveness and this saucy sassiness, but she's totally in her heart. She's compassionate, she's intelligent, she's completely switched on. Our conversations are always super next level amazing. And I know that she can really move through that terrain of the subtle and really divine the truth. And so for that reason, I know that, that she's the perfect person to have on the Intimacy Dialogues.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
It's so sweet. And so I would like to hand it over to you. Oh, one more thing I would say is that Shelley has been writing on the subject of conscious relationship, and her articles have really gone viral. She's been extremely well received and successful in this area. And on the one hand, I would say this is a great sign of where the collective is at right now. They're wanting to talk about these subjects, which is fantastic. And the other thing is that obviously the way that she's putting things is really clear and really potent, and people are really understanding what she's putting out there. So I would say that she's like at the forefront at this field, and so I really look forward to dialoguing with you on these subjects of conscious relating and everything that comes up in that realm. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I'd love to hand it over to you. I'd love for you to talk about what brought you to be speaking about conscious relationship, a little bit about your personal journey, and
Okay. So I guess what brought me to be speaking about conscious relationships is it's been a more recent step on my path, and I'll talk a little bit about my whole path, but what has brought me to this point of talking about conscious relationships right now is just a deep knowing and desire and also longing inside to like a knowing, I guess is the best adjective, that there is such depth and learning and availability for such expansion and growth in the context of relationships. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think in one of my articles, I said that relationships are the new church.
Whoa.
And I kind of, you know, and what I mean by that, and I really do in many ways believe that that's true, is like a relationship is such a potent context and container and vehicle for us to learn about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And for us to know who we really are, meaning for us to make contact with like the deepest truth of our being, which is source, love, truth, whatever word we want to call it.
Yeah.
And it is also the perfect context for all of our fears, our wounds, our conditioning, our unconscious patterns to come to the surface. Like it's all there in relationships.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such an amazing light upon our depths, isn't it? Because if we're opening to another human being, it's like opens up to so much to be revealed that cannot necessarily be revealed in other areas of our lives.
Yeah, exactly. Like recently, I was single for a period of time, and I was like so centered, so just like everything was going great, had it all together. And then I got into a relationship, and like my ego started blasting out in ways that I didn't even know was there, but it needed the relationship for me to see, oh, here's some of my deep, dark fears. Yeah. And our deepest fears, our deepest wounding and our deepest fears started in relationships early on. Really, when we were really, really young. Our deepest wounding started or come from relationship. So that means that our deepest wounding then makes itself known in relationship now. And it's an opportunity for us. And I think that hopefully a shift is going on where we are starting to recognize that relationships are an opportunity for this growth, rather than the fantasy is that a relationship is going to fix everything. A relationship is going to fulfill me. Yeah. And it can. Yeah, that's part of it. And like there's more to the story.
Yeah. Yes, and what would you say, from your own personal experience, what is the difference between a conscious relationship and a non-conscious relationship? So where did you make the shift into conscious relationship?
Yeah. So it's definitely been a journey. My relationships are becoming more and more conscious, but that's because they're a reflection of me.
Exactly, yeah.
So our relationships are a reflection of our own level of consciousness and also our own wounds, our patterns. This means that we're going to attract someone who reflects back to us everything, actually.
Yeah. The perfect trigger for all our stuff.
Perfect trigger, but also perfect love. Like the level of, the more I've come to really deep in my being know myself as just pure love, the more I attract men who can see me and recognize me in that space. Wow. And that's deep. It's like the deepest connection that there could be.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if it's the deepest connection there could be, but it's really deep. Yeah. It's really deep, like being in the presence of someone who really knows who I am at the deepest level. But the thing is, a man has to know himself at that level. I have to know myself as truth. The deeper I know myself, the deeper I'm connected with myself, the more I'm going to attract someone who is that deeply connected to themselves, and therefore we can deeply connect.
Absolutely. So it's interesting how, yes, the relationship is component is so important, but in my experience, there's a lot of pre-preparing before I was even ready to engage on that level. Right. And when that transformation had happened inside of myself, boom, the person arrived who was able to match me on that level.
Yes.
And then a whole new thing was, a whole new track was begun.
Right.
With a whole new set of challenges.
Yes.
Which on one level seems much harder and less harmonious. And on another level, the perfect medicine for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I feel like it's like there's different kinds of issues. Like I find that if someone's really shut off and then you're not able to work through that together, then it's like a relationship where you just kind of banging up against things that's not really evolving. And yet when someone's actually ready to look at their stuff, then you can use that as kind of material to go deeper.
Yeah, it's true. But also, that's very true. But also sometimes the lesson for us is, can I let someone be who they are, where they are, exactly where they are, in their consciousness level, in their ego structure?
Oh, yeah.
Can I surrender and let them be as they are? That's another lesson. So what's good about this is, like, you can't attract someone. You cannot attract someone who is not going to be an opportunity for evolution for you.
Yeah, right.
Like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's impossible for them to get in.
Going to look like.
Yeah. You don't know necessarily what the lesson is.
Yeah.
You don't know how it's going to unfold. So I can share. Do you want me to share a little bit about my past relationships?
Sure.
Is that,
yeah, let's go.
So when I had my first spiritual awakening, my first really big spiritual awakening, it came.
What does that mean?
Oh yeah. I was waking up to knowing that I'm not Shelley, actually. That's not the full story. That there's an essence of life. And it's this essence that many people put words to, like God or love or truth. I usually use truth right now. That's the one that's fitting for me. But it's an energy, and it's the recognition that at my deepest core, I am that energy. And at your deepest core, you are that energy. And at your deepest core, like that, everything is that energy.
And would you say it was an experience where you felt the absolute simplicity of that?
Yeah, well, how it happened for me was and the simplicity. Yeah, there was a simplicity, and it felt like grace. So it happened for me on the morning I decided to get sober. So it actually happened to me. I was in incredible despair. I was in incredible despair. It was like my whole life had crumbled around me, had gone to shit. I had gone to shit. I was so disgusted with myself and what had been happening in my life, because I was an alcoholic and just really caused so much havoc in my life. And it was on a morning that, I still don't have the right words to describe it. I still actually don't quite know exactly what happened. This happened over 4 years ago. But essentially what happened was, like, it was as if everything had crumbled around me. My relationship, everything had crumbled. It just had gone to shit, really. And then in that space of complete despair, there was like this light that was like, yeah, none of that's who you are. This is who you are. It's calling from within. It's like, this is who you are.
Was it like a flavor that you could feel?
Yeah, it was just an essence, an energy. And it had that message embedded in it. It wasn't like the message was coming in through my ears. It was like, there's a deeper truth.
Like
and
a
this
knowing.
is who you are. And I knew it. I knew it. Like, somehow deep inside, I was like, yeah. And it essentially kind of said, okay, follow me. I'll show you. I'll show you. And that was a massive turning point in my life. That was when I really woke up to this truth inside. Everything looked different from that day on, because I knew, like, I deeply knew that. And that became kind of my anchor for my life. So
would you say that a lot of the issues that had, or the patterns that were playing out before that, sort of dropped away in your relationship to them? Like, you no longer saw that they were really real actual things, and from that place that you were able to kind of let go and allow the grace to move through you more easily?
I'm smiling so big because I was having this exact conversation with my friend last night. No, for me, actually, a lot of my conditioning remained. A lot of my patterns. So I knew the truth, but my ego was still intact, and quite a bit. So some of my ego fell away. Basically what you're asking is, like, my conditioned patternings, like the places where I'm disconnected from that truth, the place where I feel small, the place where I feel separate, the place where I feel unworthy. Did those things fall away? They didn't fall away, but I have trained myself. They continue to fall away now. So now many have fallen away, but by me continuing to rely upon this knowing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they didn't just naturally fall away.
Yeah.
I had to be in relationships, let the patterns come up and be like, oh, this is where you're forgetting the truth. This is where you're buying into that story that you're small, that you're insignificant, that you're not pretty, that you're not good enough, that you have to be beautiful to be loved. All these stories. So
you actually have to live it, obvious way to be like, oh, hang on, look at what's really going on here.
Yeah.
That's actually really not true.
Yeah, exactly. I've had to live it. I've had to go into the wounds. Which is not an easy thing, but it's been, that's my path, and that's just what it is.
It's been my experience also.
Yeah,
it actually has to be embodied and lived to find that deeper love for that part.
Yes.
So it's like being shown
exactly
for its dissolution.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know what we're talking about is super deep, and like, I just want to say, I often say this. If you just listen with your being, like the mind doesn't understand this talk because it's really beyond the mind. We're talking about consciousness, and like the body and the heart deeper understands. But if the mind is like, well, what are they? Oh, it's like the mind doesn't quite get it. But we're talking about really a deep process here. So,
and I would also say that you don't need to have like a big awakening. I didn't have a big awakening, but I became ever more conscious of what was really going on, and through that devotion to keep on exploring and to keep on noticing where I was not loving myself and allowing relationship to keep on taking me deeper into my wounds and deeper into my pain, and actually all the way through into a deeper love. So,
oh my God, I have to go like this when you're saying that because it's so real. It unfolds very differently for everyone.
Absolutely.
It unfolds. I was having dinner with my friend last night, and for her awakening, she told me last night 70% of her ego dissolved. I was like, damn, how did I get that one? Like all her conditions left, a lot. Like that didn't happen to me. My conditions were still there, but I had the anchor of truth. And so having the anchor of truth allowed me to explore these conditions in myself.
And we're all in our own personal process of awakening. Yeah. Aren't we?
Yes, it's inevitable. It's happening to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And just the more we can engage with that. And just keep on saying yes. Would you agree with that?
I would. And I guess I want to offer some like practical tips, if we want to call them, on how to do that. It's like, because I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, how do I do that? Maybe practical is the wrong word, but I want to offer some guidance of like, well, how do you engage with this process? And so let me just drop into like kind of my own process and kind of offer up what I do to let go of my conditions, let go of my patterns. So when I say conditions and patterns, I mean anything that makes you feel like you're not good enough. Anything that makes you contracted, anything that makes you feel small, any kind of energetic contraction, that is an illusion. That's where you're not connected into this truth of who you are, and where you are buying into that you aren't this truth. It's like where you forget. It's a misunderstanding. So for me, most of my contractions come up in intimate partnership. And you have to go through it. You have to kind of fall in love and like get in there, and then they start appearing. So recently, like in the past month, I can name a few contractions or conditions that have come to the surface. So one of them is, it's an old one, and I thought it was gone.
Ooh, the old ones that you thought were gone.
It's back. And when patterns come back, don't what's really important is not to feel like, oh, like I thought I got over this. It's like you're just taking it deeper. You're taking it deeper. You're evolving deeper. You're deconstructing it deeper until it goes, and it will go. So, gosh, I can name 3 that came up in the past like 2 months that like this. So there's one that's like really freaking me out. I'll say that one last. So, so there's the belief that, it's almost like, I know a lot of women and men actually too will relate to this. It's not a belief as in a thought, but it's the conditioning that like, I have to be like the unconditional mother love to be worthy, to have value in a relationship. So it's me showing up as like, let me just love you. But there's underneath it, so subtle, underneath it, there's like, so you're going to need me. Do you know? Yeah. Yeah. Like, you're going to need me. I'm going to be special.
So it's very undercover dynamics of manipulation.
It's manipulation. Yeah. It's manipulation because, so when we look at this, it's like, oh, there's a part of me that does not believe I'm love. There's a part of me that doesn't believe I'm worthy of love. And that part has to engage in this process of like, I'm going to be the perfect girl and just love you. And then you're going to not leave me ever because you're going to need me. I know.
Yeah. I think a lot of women will relate to that pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I have to do, now that I see that, it's like, oh, that's there. And how I see it is I've just been studying myself it's just what I do. I just study so deeply so I can feel when an energy is off, when an action is off. We all can feel it though. We are intuitive. We know like this feels on, and this feels a little off.
Do you mind if I come in for 1 second?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so I totally get what you're saying right now, and I wonder, because I know that when you're actually engaging with another human being, it can get much more confusing. Like I'm also a total self-explorer, and when I have time to do that, then I can go the truth. But when we actually engage all these different dynamics that are going on during that, it can be much harder to catch. That.
You're saying when you're with a partner, it's hard, when you're in like with a person, it's hard to catch that you're doing that.
Yeah. So what would you, because I really want to get into like, what does it actually look like to be in conscious relationship? And I wonder if you, would you communicate what's going on for you as soon as it's happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Could you say more about that?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, consciousness is all about bringing awareness to. And so if you're practicing conscious relationship, it's bringing awareness to the dynamics of the relationship. And that means talking about them. That's actually all it means. It doesn't mean fixing them. It doesn't mean...
Ding, 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 key point.
Doesn't mean fixing it, doesn't mean making it go away. All of these things are resistance to trying to change what is. So,
an avoidance of actually feeling what's actually there.
Yeah, avoidance is a big one. Avoidance of feeling what's there, avoiding, I think even more so than that, we avoid having the hard conversations about what's there. Because we're so scared.
Oh yeah, because it's like a whole self-worth,
or the relationship is at stake.
Yeah,
I could give you want me to give an example?
Sure,
I have a good example about this. I was a few months back relating with a man, and we weren't partners, but we were intimate. Or we hadn't had sex yet, but we were kind of moving in that direction, and we were getting closer and closer. And to having sex, and I could feel actually, as I was tuning into my truth, that I wasn't ready to have sex with him. That like wasn't fully in alignment for me.
Mm-hmm. How did you know that?
Because I could feel, when I felt into the potential of it, it felt a little off. That's how I could describe it. Like energy. I'm
like
reading energy.
Not a yes. Yeah.
It wasn't a yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So off is like not a yes.
Yeah. Not a yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not a yes.
Yeah.
Not a yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Not a yes. So, yet I could feel his desire of me, which I liked, and I didn't want that to stop.
Yeah.
I could feel that he wanted to have sex with me.
Mm. And that made you feel wanted.
Yeah, that played into, well, yeah, there's all these different layers. Yeah, my little girl, my more egoic structure felt really wanted. And then I just actually also in truth really loved him in our relationship. So we were at a time where we could potentially move into having sex. And I knew, I was like, okay, shit, I have to tell him. And I was so scared because I was like, oh God, I don't want him to feel rejected. I don't want him to back away from me. I don't want him to punish me. I don't want him to like all like the potentials of what could happen if I'm like, look, I'm not going there with you. So I said all that. I basically said, I have to tell you something. I'm not ready to have sex with you. And I'm really scared to tell you that because I'm scared that you're going to back away. I'm scared that you're going to feel hurt. I'm scared that you're going to collapse. But I have to tell you because that's my truth. And conscious relationship, conscious man, like how he responded was, it was one of the biggest gifts I've ever been given by a man to this date. He said, Shelley, I don't want your yes. I don't want your no. I want what's real for you. I want your truth. And he continued, he said, because in your truth, I get to remain connected to you. If you do something to try to please me, like you're gone, you're not here anymore. And I want you in your truth. And I was like, I actually was like stunned and my mouth was open and I was like, okay, wow. But there's such a like timeless, just most exquisite lesson in that, which is that's actually what we want is to be desired. What we want is for relationships to, for people to love us. Of course, we all want that. The way to actually make that happen is by not collapsing yourself, not trying to be someone you're not molding and changing, but by showing up in truth the best you can. And it is a practice. It's a practice.
We could finish the interview right here because that's really
so
it. It's not about looking in a particular way. It's just as you said.
Yeah,
and that's moment by moment, isn't it?
It's a meditation.
Yes, it's a living
relationship
meditation.
Is a meditation. Like we have to realize what, actually, this is fascinating to me. What's coming in right now, because I think some people think I think sometimes we have an idea of what enlightenment is, and I think sometimes we have an idea of like what a conscious relationship is, and I see through both lenses how off they are. Like enlightenment doesn't necessarily mean, not that I really know, but I've been studying this a lot lately, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything feels good all the time. A conscious relationship does not mean it feels good all the time. It means you're willing to show up with what's there. And be real about it.
Particularly when it doesn't feel good.
Particularly when it doesn't feel good. And can you be with that? Can you not lose track of what the deepest truth is that like you're love, I'm love, we are all love. That's foundational. And can we be with what's here? Not trying to change it, not trying to manipulate it, we can, and that is actually where the change happens.
Absolutely. And I find that takes so much courageousness, because there's this small person inside who's like, like really feeling like, I'm not loved. Like, and
so
I'm kind
scared.
I'm not loved, and like if I'm not loved, it's the end of the world.
Yes.
So it's actually like kind of energetic reality inside that actually makes us close off in those situations. And so what would you say would be the way to self-soothe that part that's completely freaking out in that space?
Oh, perfect question.
Because if it was easy to go there, we'd all be going there.
So the reason I was able to attract a man who could be with me in that space, what I just described, was because I've learned to be with myself in that space. So what you're talking about, and that doesn't mean like there's still remnants of that little girl, but it's my job to be with her. Now, the way this happens in my own system, it's like a self-soothing. The way it happens in my own system is it's literally like there's a little girl, and then there's the Shelley as the embodiment of truth. And the little girl who's like, she comes up all the time, who's like, what you just did, like freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm not loved. Oh my God, I'm being left. Oh my God, scared, alone, maybe sometimes angry, like all different freaked out emotions. What most of us do is we make her wrong. We're like, oh, I don't want to feel that. We push her in the corner. If you think of it, if you try to think of that part of yourself as a little girl or a little boy, like a little you, it's hard to not have compassion. Actually, that's really helped me. So again, in my own system, I feel like, okay, there she is. Okay, she's here. There she is. Okay, sweetie. Okay, sweetie, I'm here. What do you need? And I'm just with her. Not, definitely the mind is not involved, like, oh, well, trying to figure out, like, that's not soothing. That's not soothing. It's like just body to body. It's a bodily sensation or sensation of like, okay, sweetie, I'm here. And in my experience, what I find is when it's actually, it happens very quickly. When I bring truth, embodied truth, which is love, which is compassion, which is holding, which is presence, to this freaked out little one inside of me, she just soothes. She just, it like dissolves into the essence of love. And you have to do it over and over.
Over and over.
But you know what? It gets you dissolve more and more.
Yeah, it gets easier, doesn't it?
It gets easier.
It really does. I would love to know, how can you, because I do this a lot, what you said, and I found it's the key. Yeah, definitely.
So good.
And then I'm wondering, how can you get your partner to help you with that? Like, do you always have to go away to do that? Or do you just sometimes go away to do that? Or how to do this in how to do this in relationship? Like, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Step one, don't try to get your partner to do anything. That if you're trying to get your partner to do it, it means you're not doing it.
Yeah. Key.
If you need someone else to do it, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And then here's the even like, and then that makes it impossible for him or her to do it.
And if there's any sense of obligation, then that really buggers things up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels horrible.
Yeah.
It feels like someone coming like this to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's also energetic. So people can only treat us the way we're treating ourselves. It's energy. Like, you have to be embodying that type of love for yourself for another person to do it. It's actually like energetic's not possible for, they can do it, but it's just not going to last. You create an addictive cycle of needing someone to soothe you, and then you're just like caught. We all know that. We all know that, of like, I need you to make me feel good. I need you to make me know that I'm beautiful. I need you. that's all caught in the ego. That's like, I'm incomplete in all these ways, and I need something outside of me to change that. And it's you'll lose at that game. You'll lose every time.
Yeah.
So we have to drop into like, where am I trying to get someone else to heal me? Okay, how do I do that for myself? Now, that's not to say that you don't have a conversation with your partners about it, of course. Like, but again, the way to inspire, I like talking about it in this way, inspire someone to move towards you and love you in that way, is by like dropping into the realist part of yourself and then speaking that truth. Like, okay, without any need of them to do anything. That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Without any need. And when you pay attention to yourself, you can feel when you're needy, even when it's undercover.
Yeah.
You can feel when there's need, and you can feel when there's actually no attachment to what they do.
Yeah. In my experience, it's like, it's actually quite clean. Like, you put it there,
yes,
but it doesn't, it was enough just to put it out there and make that request or express that thing. And nothing more is needed. It's complete at that point.
Yes.
And then if they are able to meet that from their own side and come forth and engage, then it's beautiful.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a certain quality of like completion.
Yes, completion.
You know, where it's coming, when it's coming from that very deep place of truth. Because it's actually work that you're doing with yourself, that you're inviting your partner to share and engage with if they feel.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's unattachment, the completion, the word that comes to me is unattachment. I'm not attached to what you do with this.
Yeah, I just like to not use the word attachment so much, because it's like, I should be unattached. Like, I think that's such a strong kind of message. I always felt like that.
Yeah.
You know, like in my early years of spirituality, I should be unattached.
Yeah. So that's why there's such attachment in that. Like, it's like anything with force or resistance. So unattachment mean like it's clean. Yeah. Like the energy field is clean. Like there's no.
It feels full already, and there's no
because
need
you
for
are in
anything more
your
to happen.
truth. If you're in your truth, you are full. Your energy already is full. You don't need another person to show up for you. That does not mean that you don't. It doesn't mean that we're free and we don't need anyone. You know, it's not. People can take it as like, well, then why are we in relationships? And it's like, well, no, there's like a larger picture going on. But part of why you're in relationship, I believe, is to come into your fullness, to see the ways that you are not in your fullness and to come into it. I had something I wanted to say though, and I lost it. Yeah, maybe it'll come back.
Okay. I wondered if you could speak to the person who has a yearning to engage with what this thing called conscious relationship, and either they're in a relationship which doesn't feel like they're reaching that and they don't really know how to make it like that, or actually maybe speak to that person, because I feel like you've already spoken to the person who wants that, and you've shown them that to really engage with their own process and to find that love within themselves, that they make their frequency to a point where they're able to invite that in, which is my experience completely, and such a beautiful, potent message. So I'm wondering about the people who are actually in relationship, and the relationship is not on this level and they want to make it like that. Yeah. What's, a little bit of words for them?
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about all this through what I know and practice is like, it's always the same answer. So if you're in a relationship and it's not like this and you want it to be like this, you have to, number one, you have to deepen this truth in yourself. The more your consciousness expands, like you have to be met. So that it either means like you have to be matched. So you're either going to move into something that matches you in a different way, or or your partner will start matching you. But what I really want to say is so if you're in a relationship and you're not, you need to look at all the ways you are attached. What other word can I use? Like where you are trying to get the relationship to be something it's not, because that's actually your ego. That's your, so let me see the best way I can like really drop into this and talk about it. when you are in a relationship and you're not feeling fulfilled by it, if there's a lot of energy and anger and resentment still in the relationship, then you actually still have a lot of work to do before you're ready for a conscious relationship. There's plenty of work for you to look at yourself. What am I trying to get here from this person? How am I not giving that to myself? What am I not embodying that I'm being met? What do I need to find acceptance of in myself and the other person? What do I need to put boundaries up about? Like, how am I not living in truth? You have to ask yourself, if you're in a relationship that's not fulfilling, there's parts of you or conditions of you that are not living in truth, and you need to face that.
Yeah.
You need to face that in yourself. The only way to evolve into something different is to face that in yourself. If you are on the path of consciousness, conscious development, embodying consciousness, and you reach a place where a relationship is no longer fulfilling, but it's like, you can walk away very easily and there's a lot of peace, then you've just moved on and you can just move on. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if you're struggling in it, you got to figure out what's there for you to learn, because there wouldn't be those struggles if, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have a relationship with struggles, but I'm just saying, like, if you're really, really struggling in it, that's your work. You need to look at what are you buying into that is not in alignment with truth.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is that if you're making the issue about the relationship, you can, and this is something I practice a lot, I'll take away the subject, I'll take away the idea of the relationship being the problem, and actually see what's being brought up. Yeah. And be like, aha, this is in me. There's frustration. There's this. There's not being met. There's and rather than projecting it towards the relationship and the human being behind it, take it away for a minute and see what's there, and be like, okay, that's frustrating. Okay, what's this saying about me? What does that make me feel?
Yes.
Back to what you're saying.
Amazing.
What is there for me to learn from this?
Amazing.
And then amazing alchemical reactions happen
when
you do this work.
Yeah, the relationship can change in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild, but that's like, it's wild to the ego, but like we're talking about energy. People, you can change relationships like that.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you said that. It's really the key. And this is, I think, what is so challenging about relationships in particular. It's so easy to look at the other person and be like, they're doing this, to go into blame. Like, they're doing this, and they're probably doing all those things, and they probably are being an asshole. Like, that's probably real. But it's not the point. It's not going to help you. What's going to help you is you have to turn back on yourself and be like, whoa, what's happening here for me?
I called it an asshole. What does this say? About me.
Right. Or even just small little pieces, like this person can't be present with me. This person, and I want them to be more present. And I'm like, let's spend quality time together. No, I really want you to be present with me. Why can't you be fucking present with me? Okay. Cool. You've gotten into the mess. Now you got to take a step back and be like, what's this all about? What does this mean about me? You ask yourself in this example I'm giving, how am I not being present to myself? How am I not being present in this relationship? How am I buying into a belief system that someone's not going to be present with me? You explore what is being presented, what it means about you. And then you can find the conditions, like, oh, this is where I totally buy into this belief that people are checked out, or whatever it is. And then that's how you start to unravel it.
Absolutely. And I find that it's actually when you find the uncomfortable point.
Yeah.
You ask the question, then you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Yeah. There's usually a bit of a nugget of truth in there. And it's not the ultimate truth, but something to explore and something to feel. Yeah.
So what do you mean by a negative truth?
So for instance, like, okay, if I'm attracting men who are not available or present, and then I start asking myself, oh, okay, where am I not available and present to myself? And I start to ask myself these different questions, or Or like, why don't I feel like I'm worthy
Yeah.
to have a present man in my life?
Yes.
And if, I start asking myself these questions, then I get a kind of like,
oh yeah,
it's kind of a like uncomfortable feeling in me.
That's right.
I usually notice like there's something going on there.
Yes.
And I'll ask myself that question a few more times.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily like I get this magical answer, but like something starts moving in me. It's like I access something that was held in there that I was projecting out onto my reality. And then I kind of get in there and I just be with it. And I find that, this magical alchemical reaction that is possible starts to happen on the inside.
Exactly. You're speaking to it exactly.
And
right.
sometimes there's like I find that there's like a time lapse before that gets shown back to me. But it will. Sometimes it's like a month later, all of a sudden there's present men everywhere.
Yes. Oh, fully. Yes.
Like, there was nothing in there, like things do shift.
They shift.
But only if you go there, huh?
Yeah, my relationships, what you're saying is so perfect. I love how you said it. I love everything you said. That is really the key. It's like looking at, there's a wound for me, it feels like a contraction of energy, a wound. It's like a belief where I'm still believing in that small story, not believing in the truth.
Yeah.
And you just have to be there with it. And then it's going to move. And my relationships with men have just transformed so much. Can I tell a story?
Yeah. Tell us your story, Shelley.
Ooh, there's so many. So one of the where I really got that everything is a reflection of us, and where I really got it that a man or a relationship is a reflection of me and how I feel about myself, was in this experience.
Can you say that sentence again? Because it's so bush. Everything is a reflection of me and how I feel about myself.
Yeah, everything is a reflection of what's happening inside of me, how I feel about myself, what I believe about myself. It is all reflected out there. That's all that's happening, always. Everything that comes in is showing you. This
is profound, but it's so important to take note of this one.
That's why we can't blame them, because you called them in. Like, you called them in so you could see yourself.
Isn't that incredible?
So
profound.
Yeah. So wow. I always called in unavailable men before I had my awakening, and even still it plays out in my life. I just continue to unravel that deeper. But, it's different levels. It's like the levels of unavailability have gotten less and less, but, it's still there a little bit. But I went through a really hard period of time in my life. This was after my awakening, couple years after, I went through a breakup. I had a really intense family situation. I was like a really painful place. And I knew that I had to just love myself to get through it. I just felt that it was like the little girl was so activated all the time. And it was like, just love her, just love her. Love her. So I really dedicated myself to like a month or a couple months of like deep precious, just feeling myself as precious and loving myself. And then it continued on into the little girl kind of grew up, and then I was like, was loving myself as a woman, like just in this phase of my life, like that's kind of what it felt like. It was like, I loved the little girl, and then she was like, and then it was like, oh yeah, I love this woman. I love this woman. Like, oh, she's so like,
See why I love this woman?
and so, it was February, a couple years ago, and I went to a Valentine's Day party with my friend. My girlfriend invited me to the party, and I was wearing like this. I was just in that space where no arrogance, it wasn't an arrogant thing. It was just an appreciation for who I am, genuine. Like I love my heart. I love that. I just loved myself. No arrogance there. And I was wearing like this, it was a Valentine's Day party. I was wearing like this red lace dress and I was feeling beautiful.
So full of your own experience, not looking for something.
No.
Full. And
Just
this is something I experienced about you're just like, you're bubbling.
Yeah.
You're just bubbling
like through.
Yeah.
And unless you're going to act, like, you can't come in unless they're going to like, that's
like up level situation.
Yeah. Like we got to be met and matched in that.
Yeah.
That's a little arrogant to say. Whatever. I just went into my arrogance. Okay, whatever. I forgive myself. So anyways, I was at this Valentine's Day party. I felt so embodied, just so humble, but loving myself. And I met a man there and I met him. I'll never forget it. And he's still such an important person in my life. I love him very deeply. I'll never forget it because he looked at me and I immediately could feel he sees me how I see myself. Like, and he walked over to me and he was like, he just was clear. He's like, who are you? You're beautiful. That's it. Like, that's it. Like, I'm hanging out with you.
I see you, girl.
Yeah, I see you. I'm with you. And so we started dating after that. But in that night, and it was so, but he was also so, he was such a gentleman. He was so present. He was so respectful. And he was all the things that I was to myself. Like he was the reflection of what I had become. It was obvious. It was so obvious to me. Because I actually had never had a man approach me quite like that and be with me ongoing, consistently throughout the time we were together like that. And it was just in my face, like, this is a reflection of me. This is who I have become.
Isn't that
so that's when I knew.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And it's also such a beautiful message, and especially the women out there who are like being like on this path of healing, you're working on your shit and the reflection you're seeing is really hard and you're really, really working with it.
Yeah.
It feels really hard. Sooner or later this happens. You know, sooner or later you see the clear reflection come at you of the work that you've done on yourself.
Yes.
You know, the love that you've claimed inside yourself being reflected at you through the outside. Like, it happens.
Beautiful when that happens.
It's really, really beautiful. And the honor is
that was one of the words that I felt with him.
Yeah.
Honored, but I honored myself. There's no other choice
of your honor.
It was a reflection of my honor,
yeah,
my love. And I also want to throw in there, and part of me wonders if maybe I'm a little cynical or like, you know, but I like being real.
Yeah, let's get real.
I also want to say that, like, that does not mean I still deal with really deep stuff in relationships, really painful wounding in relationships. And that's because there's still some conditions inside of me. There's still some wounds inside of me they need to be contended with. And I'm so committed to this path. I'm committed to dismantling illusion, dissolving illusion. Like, I'm in and I'm on this path. And so I'm open for anything that needs to be shown. And so I'm still going to play stuff out with men until I'm done with that. And hopefully I'll be done with that at some point in this lifetime. Maybe I will be.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah. So it's not like he comes along, he says, I see you, you know, and you have this incredible experience of reflected love, full stop.
Yeah.
It's not like, it doesn't happen like that either, does it?
No.
Yeah, it's
one part of us and me, and then there's other parts, and there's the whole range of reflection.
Because then there's the like, oh, and you know, now you're ready to see this part of yourself. I'm going to reflect this extremely uncomfortable hidden part of you.
Oh yeah,
which is just another manifestation of the love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's all pointing you to love.
Yeah, it's
the love is pointing you to love, and the illusion is pointing you to greater love. Like the illusion is saying, oh, here's where you forgot. You need to know here too.
So in fact, it's actually like the most precious gift.
Yes.
Because it's like actually like the deeper key that's so hidden.
Yes.
That you weren't able to see.
Exactly.
But it's generally very painful.
It's such a gift. Yeah. It's like where, like, for me, for example, getting that, what I spoke about earlier in the call or the talk was getting sober, like how dark that dark morning was. But without that darkness, it's like it really woke me up to truth. Like that often happens. Sometimes the most painful things are the greatest gifts because they wake us up to like what's really real.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that, you know, what we're talking about is conscious. This is what conscious relationships is. And hopefully we are all moving in a direction where we can do this, where we recognize that a relationship is not a place for us to arrive into and feel totally met and totally taken care of, but it's actually a context to learn. It's like a place for us to learn about ourselves, to explore the deeper truth of who we are, who they are, to love more, to become a greater embodiment of love.
Whoa, that's
so good. And that is more enjoyable than arriving and being met 100%. Well, maybe it's not, but like that's what it is, you know. I think it is. It makes it there's like it's an exploration.
It's deeper.
It's deeper.
And once you get through there and you arrive at those deeper levels, it's like, oh, I get it.
Yes.
I get the whole thing.
It's deeper.
Yeah,
yes,
it's really clear.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. She just nailed it in so many ways, didn't she? Oh my god. So I would love for you to finish with a couple of different messages. First, what would be one message for men on how to show up for conscious relationships?
Okay. Let me sit with them. I love you, men. I would say don't be afraid to be real. I mean, the message is the same for men and women, but let me feel into kind of collectively. I think men are really scared of hurting women. They're really scared of a woman's uncontained emotionality, which is understanding because it can be scary, you know? And I think women and men hide away from truth because they're scared of provoking a woman in her emotion, or they're scared of her being angry, being hurt. So they hide away from truth. And I would encourage men to know that no matter what, you're going to be okay. And that the most, that like the thing that's really going to feel the best is to be in your truth, whatever that means. Showing up in relationship with truth, with your truth, speaking it, no matter how that impacts her. And the more embodied in your truth you are, the less defensive, the less like scared, and that's a practice, but you can get there, the more she's going to be able to handle it and you can have a conversation. So that would be my offering for men. Yeah.
I love that. And for the women.
So I think the other side of this dynamic that I'm talking about is for women. Again, this can be for men and women. We all can take all these messages. It's really not about men and women. But for women, I think collectively, I feel into a lot of things. Stop blaming men. That's a big one. Stop blaming men. Stop becoming so identified with your triggers and wounding and victimized. Identifying with kind of, I'm victimized by men. That would be the place that I would say women really need to look at themselves. Stop trying to get a man to make you feel better. That's your job. It's your job, and you will get a man who knows how to make you feel good, who will show up for you when you show up for yourself. So it's like the identification and the getting caught in like the turmoil, which I'm not saying that like that is real, that's happening, but it's your job to dissolve it. It's your job to make it better.
Wow, I It's two amazing keys. And what I'm hearing with the women's message is like a real call for self-responsibility.
Totally. Thank you.
Deep
self-responsibility.
Yeah, which is an incredible gift to yourself.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly what it is.
Liberating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Shelley, thank you so much, my darling.
Thank you. This was so fun. So great.
And I want to really bow down to everyone everywhere who's like been courageous enough to actually really look at their stuff. It's amazing. And I feel like this is happening more collectively, and how beautiful that we can help each other to go to those places and to find the love which is so deep inside and then share it. And so I feel like that's kind of a core part of conscious relationship. It's like we're holding each other's hands, taking each other home, and to a deeper and deeper experience of love. So thank you so much to all of you who stayed, who listened to this. Either you're listening now or later. Yeah, really, I'm sure that you enjoyed all these amazing keys that Shelley offered you. And there's more intimacy dialogues coming. You can go to the Facebook page, the Intimacy Dialogues, and like it. And all the links will be up there for this dialogue, but also the future ones. And if you want to know more about me, go to wildsacredfeminine.com. And if you want to know more about Shelley and all the amazing e-courses that she has is offering, go to Shelly-Bullard.com. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Mwah! Have a beautiful day, beauties. Lots and lots of love. Bye-bye.